And good evening, everyone. It is 2 minutes past 8. Sorry, we're late, mister. Sunday, the 9th of August. This is episode 19 of the Pro Synth Network show. Welcome to everyone that's in the chat room and those who aren't. And welcome to my two co-hosts, Ben Simpson and Cryss. I always want to use your surname, but I'm not sure if you'd like me to, because you always kind of go by Cryss Synthient, and I know that...
Yeah, you'd confuse people.
I know. I'll just say Cryss Synthient. He's here. Let's go across to Cryss and find out how he's been, because you kind of stepped in at the last minute last week, because you were supposed to have like the day off, and then you jumped in when Ben had connection issues, so thanks for that. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right, and, well, actually... My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Very good. Very good.
So we can use Montoya if you like.
Yep. Okay, Montoya. Well, yeah, I'll change your heading. So, what have you been up to the last 7 days? Anything fun?
Yeah, I've been busy. Released a Microfreak sound set. I have the Prophet one in the chamber, and just started working on an OB6 sound set and got some pretty good progress on that.
Cool.
Yeah, that's been my week.
Nice one. And we go up to the north of England. Is it hot up there, Ben, as it is down in the south?
It's pretty roasting in the shoebox. I've got everything switched on at the minute, and it's just like in an oven.
Yeah.
The fans on the iMac kicked in before, but they seem to have calmed down now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the Fairlight going earlier on, trying to get a bit sorted on that, and that kicks out some heat. So I had that, and then it just seems like every bank of plugs that I turn on, it notches up a few degrees, and it's just like. Ugh. So I apologise for my kind of dad attire today, but it's like the thinnest, lightest shirt that I could find in terms of cotton, and so all my t-shirts just so heavy. And I have to apologise for the fan in the background, because if I didn't have that on, I would be sweating buckets. So apologies for that. The windows are wide open, so I also apologise for church bells, cats, birds, and other wildlife that might occur during the show. But hopefully we'll be okay. So let's get straight into stuff now. Cryss, you wanted to mention these by our good friend Jamie, who has just come off air, and we've kind of jumped on after him. The singularity patches for the Moog 1, for those that can afford one.
Yeah, Jamie talks about his beat up economy car from 2006. I've got a beat up economy car from 2004. So
maybe that's what I need to do. I need to not have such a nice car.
Yeah, and we'll have one for quite a while.
I see. I went years of having a really awful car, and every 2 years it would die, and I had to get another one. And then a few years ago, I thought, no, stuff this. I'm going to get a decent one, and maybe that's the trick, is to cut back on the car and increase on the synths.
Yeah, well, I had started out my driving life with classic Chevys, and had my first car that I bought was a 63 Chevy 2. It's the Box Nova, and that was a wonderful and memorable car. And I had a Camaro and a Dodge after that, and all a lot of fun, but you end up putting too much money into them, and guitars and synthesizers need more money. So I've switched in that direction.
Very, very similar story for myself, actually. I started off with a Austin Allegro, T-Reg.
I'm going to have to introduce you to my friend who used to run an Allegro Motorsport team. Seriously, they had 3 of them. They had one done up in the Gulf oil, that pale blue with the stripe, like the GT40. They had a brown one, and they had another one which was done in the Martini Rally Racing colours, and they're all Austin Allegros, and they used to take them to Le Mans and everything. I'll send you some pics later. So, Cryss, you wanted to give
yes.
Jamie a mention for
this
actually,
stuff. So if anybody hasn't heard, and if you do happen to have a Moog 1, GEOSynths, otherwise known as our friend Jamie Morden, has released Singularity Volume 2, and it has some great sounds. And one of the things that I think the Moog One is the greatest analog poly that's ever been done. And if you spend some time with it, you can get just really amazing sounds. Probably where it has really suffered is that the factory patches are just junk, and that's what gets showed off, and they just sound terrible. But thankfully, at least there are some really great sounding patches out these days with Jamie's sets, Volume 1 and 2, and I think he even has like a combo pack. So please go check those out. I think Singularity 2 has some really spectacular sounds in it, and so we just wanted to make sure the word got out on that. And also, of course, he has so many different great sound sets available for DeepMind and OB6 and Prophet 6 and everything else. So yeah, check them out.
Yeah, definitely. If I had a Moog One, I would, but I don't, so I can't. But we'll take your word for it, because you have one there sat right behind you. So we'll take your
enjoy
word for
your
it.
nicer car.
Yeah, I'll think of that as I'm driving in luxury with the cruise control on, and just thinking, yeah, I could be playing on the Moog One right now. Said me never. There you go. Because I mean, I couldn't have a Moog One. It would feel so uncomfortable in this room of digital coldness. As somebody actually said in the chat room here, wouldn't it be nice? It was Asio Head. Wouldn't it be nice if digital synths turned cold when turning on and analog synths were hot? It would be nice. It would be nice, but no, sadly not. So yeah, there you go. If you want to get hold of those, geosynths.com, and it's right there. Singularity Volumes 1 and 2 bundle is a mere $89, but if you've already got Volume 1 and you want Volume 2, it's $49. Volume 1 is currently in the sale at $41.65. All there, and there's some bloody good sounds in there. So if you've got one of those, treat it. Definitely, for sure. So talking of vintage analog synthesizers, this one has been, it's not an actual vintage analog synthesizer, it's a plug-in of a vintage analog synthesizer, and it is the latest version of the OBXD by discoDSP. And I'm just trying to get the here we go, here's the page. So this is now at 2.0, and has always been a really good, I wouldn't say excellent, but good Oberheim synth, and now with these new graphics it certainly looks the business. It is free of charge as always, but you have got a $49 buy option there as well. There is a version also in the iOS world and also Linux, and yeah, I mean, in general this is just a really, really nice plug-in. If there's been a wealth of Oberheim stuff of late. I think mainly Arturia kind of kicked it off in the plug-in world by releasing theirs, and then we've started to see updates or new other Oberheim patches. Ben, have you had a chance to play with version 2 of this?
Yeah, I've been messing with it nearly all day. It sounds great to me, and I stuck it through that Valhalla Supermassive, and
oh yeah,
it just sounded incredible. I was just lost. Nearly made myself cry. You know what I mean?
So that picture on the screen behind you is actually a graph of your brainwaves while playing it.
Yeah, I was in my own world. It's a great sounding thing for me. I think I've got the OPX as well, and I don't know. This just sounds more electric. It's got like a fizz to it that I don't think the OPX has. But it's just what I thought. I was well impressed with it today. I couldn't believe it. It was very good.
Yeah, and the OPX that's the one by Sonic Projects, isn't it?
Yeah.
The OPX is great. It is great, but I just think this was fizzier.
Mm-hmm.
It had a crisper edge to it.
I must say, I do like this new skin that they've got for it. It makes it very Oberheim-esque and very clear and very simple to understand what's going on there. Cryss, have you had a chance to, being you've got an OB6 there, What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to try the version 2.0 yet. Now, I don't know, last year, maybe a year ago or so, I had gotten OBBX or whatever it is. Let me look at the screen. OBXD. Yeah, should have guessed that, but I had a typo here on my page, and I was like, wait, is that right? Yeah, OBXD. And also I have the Sonic Projects OPX Pro 2 or whatever it's called. Last year, so the earlier version of OBXD, I'm going to change that right now. The earlier version, let's see here. Okay, the earlier version, I thought Sonic, man, I'm just losing it here. All right, so the OPX. I thought it cleaned its clock, sounding more authentic to Oberheim. It sounded at least closer to my OB6 also. But the interface on the OPX is not so great. It's a bit cumbersome. This new OBDX is... looks fantastic. I think the interface is great, and after Ben's glowing review, I'll be curious to try it and check it out and see what I think of it. As I recall, it just seemed like a little more before. It sounded a little more like kind of the difference between the Roland ACB and the Zencore. Like it's ish. But maybe the engine has been upgraded on it, so I'm quite interested to check it out.
Yeah, and with the launch of 2.0, we've got these new J3PO signature patches, which I had a flick through. They say they're completely free, and I had a flick through, and there's some really nice stuff on this. Using the former skin there with the pinstripes, but it does have weight to it, which is nice.
We're getting some buffering on the stream.
Oh, right, okay.
I got a hideous pause on my face.
Oh no! Right, that's odd because once again, we've got all the figures here are good. We'll keep an eye on that. But yes, let's just bring back. Maybe it's when I play YouTube. That should be odd.
Maybe.
Yeah, very strange. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I've had a play around with this. I really like it. It's always been my kind of my go-to if I want an Oberheim kind of thing in there. But we've had this. There was the free plugin or the free sample library from IK. There was the Arturia one, and what was is it Synapse Audio just did one that we spoke about a few weeks back. So we now literally have all our bases covered, both in hardware and in software, if you want an Oberheim sound. So and of course we anticipate the release of the Behringer hardware model to see if that cuts the mustard. But yeah, another nice free plugin from discoDSP, updated to 2.0. That's the OBXD. What's next? Let's have a look here. Well, we mentioned Behringer. Let's just quickly mention this. So Behringer own a company called Coolaudio, who are chip manufacturers and circuit designers, and I guess a whole bunch of other stuff. That they design semiconductors and what have you. And they've just released a complete voice on a single chip, which is two multi-waveform oscillators, a voltage control filter plus 4 VCAs on a single chip, which is apparently an improved version of the Cryss CM3396, and will allow people to create high-performance analog polysynths in a very compact manner. Interesting development. Now that Behringer own all this chip manufacturing technology and the companies behind them, looks like we're going to be getting powerful stuff in the future with just single little chips. But it's quite interesting to see that kind of stuff coming out. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I said before, it seems like the synth industry is about 20 or 25 years behind the guitar industry, and that where in the early mid 90s, kind of the craze for the vintage 60s stuff kind of came back, fuzz pedals, tube screamers, all that kind of stuff. And so companies like Electro Harmonics, of course, went out of business, but Mike Matthews started up Sovtek in Russia after the Cold War ended, and then one of his goals was to make sure that we keep manufacturing vacuum tubes for hi-fi and music gear. And so it's great to see Coolaudio doing this, because there's been a lot of things like bucket brigade devices that they're getting very expensive because they're so rare now. I have an Electro Harmonics Memory Man 1100 tap tempo, and that's one of the newer models, but it's their top of the line one, and they originally issued it with Panasonic chips, which is what mine has. But the numbers on them, they stopped making them because they ran out, and everywhere people want to get a hold of these things. So Coolaudio had done some chips, and so the newer ones have Coolaudio chips in them, as well as a number of other boutique devices. And so when we see these rare vintage synth chips becoming, they're obsolete, they haven't been made in years, their technology is so far beyond this 70s and 80s era music gear technology that nobody wants to make it, that I'm happy to see that people like Mike Matthews and Sovtek Electro Harmonics or Behringer as deciding to make this stuff, because everybody benefits. I think even Dave Smith uses some of their chips, and pretty much everybody. So something like this, a synth on a chip, really condenses stuff down. I mean, we're already working with surface mount technology. It's not a full synth on a chip. I mean, you still design the peripheral circuitry around it and the values, and you get to make it your own, but it sure makes a big jump for people who are making their own synthesizers, or startup companies especially, all the way up to big synth manufacturers. I'm sure we'll be using them.
Yeah, it certainly looks like they're getting the market cornered in every respect. So they make their own budget synths, and now they make components for everyone else's synths, and there seems to be a bigger plan going on there. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? I wonder how compact these polysynths can actually get. It's typical for me. Just as soon as I get a bigger studio, everything gets gets made smaller and perfectly. I think it's really good. I think it's got to be a good thing. I'm not really sure on how it's going to develop and what we're going to get from it yet. But miniaturizing something's always got to be for the good, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's what the Japanese said about 40 years ago. They're going to make everything smaller.
Yeah.
And it certainly worked. But yeah, it's interesting to see that these developments are happening, and we shall wait and see what they bring up. Now I have to apologise. Apparently YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming, and as such, viewers will experience buffering. I'm at a loss to kind of say what this is. We had this issue last week, and everything seems to be good in terms of connection here. I'm kind of at a loss because it keeps going in and out, and I'm getting these messages, and one minute it says the stream is healthy, and the next minute it says there's errors. So I don't know whether I should just reboot everything and start again, or carry on regardless, because it's not a great experience for our viewers. So I'm looking at everything now. We've kind of we really are chunking up a little bit there. Right, bear with us, people. It's very strange because what's going out of here seems to be good. Okay, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to try. Let's try this. Sorry about this, folks. This is not great viewing.
So Sasquatch says the audio is okay.
Okay.
So it appears to be the visuals. And people are saying that YouTube's been having problems all week.
Yeah. I'd like to hope it's not me and it's them, but I can't say with any certainty. It doesn't help when that is doing that. Excuse me. Right. Let's see. Why can I not? That's right. Play some music in the background.
There we go. Have you tried turning it off and then on again?
Yeah. I cannot give it any more gun.
Have you seen the A crowd?
Oh yes. Right. Okay, that's not seeming to help here. Wagyu says, "Just stop your torrents." I wish. No, I literally, I pretty much turn everything off that could possibly do damage. Let's see. YouTube is still saying that we're not sending enough video. Right, so that's gone there.
So if you're just joining us, we're trying to sort out what YouTube is doing to us. We seem to have okay audio, but the picture is kind of funky. So if we time it right, we can make a really funny gesture and it'll get stuck on the screen for a minute.
Let's see.
They probably missed that now.
Yeah, they probably didn't get that at all. Right, let's try.
You guys missed it. Welcome everyone in the chat room.
Yeah.
Synth designer Adamski.
Adamski.
Is it Adamski or Adamski? I guess it depends on where you were. Oh, he's British, so probably got to go with your pronunciation on that. Kinflux Pierce, really enjoying. We're going to talk about the Hydrasynth a little while. Really enjoying the update.
If we can get this thing going, yeah.
Okay, well let's keep going because at least the audio is fine.
I just want to kill some things off in the background here if I can. I don't think it's my sister. Yeah, everything's going fine here. Right, muttering away here. Let's do that. Oh, good God, no, I can't do all that, can I? Right. Let's just get rid of that going. See if that
worked quite well, that freezing thing.
Right. Let's see. I don't know if that's going to help or not. Let's just have a quick look. Oh, yes. Well, our stream is now healthy and excellent, according to YouTube. How long that will last, I don't know, because it still looks a bit stuttery to me in the preview. But
it's too bad that it freeze frames and we couldn't relive our youth with Max Headroom style stuttering.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay. So let's see if everything comes back in. I mean, at the moment it's not looking great. We'll just have to rely on the chat room. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No
Let's move on to the next topic. So we've done that. I'm going to just throw this one in here, just because it's kind of a throwaway topic, really. Just to see if everything catches up on YouTube while we're doing this. Right, so I used to work for a company many years ago called STL, and that used to stand for Sound Techniques Limited. Sound Techniques, if anybody is kind of aware of British studio and mixer technology, might know that name. It's basically a company that was started by a guy called Jeff Frost, who was a BBC engineer, and then decided he was going to start his own studio in London, in Chelsea, in an old cowshed, no less, or a dairy thing, whatever it was, in Chelsea in London, and kind of ended up creating a studio where he built all the equipment himself, and ended up recording the likes of Pink Floyd in their early days. So he did the first Pink Floyd album there. All of Nick Drake's stuff was done there. Steel Eye Span, a lot of the English kind of folk movement of the mid to late 60s was done there. And then he started installing boards in places like Trident, where the Beatles used one of his desks on the White Album. Elton John's used the stuff. I mean, its history is steeped. And then he kind of got out of the whole game with mixers and stuff, because the Japanese were coming in with things that were smaller and more powerful and cheaper, and so he ended up going into computer technology, which is how I got involved with him. However, he sold the business, the Sound Techniques brand, to some guys in America who vowed to bring it back with aplomb, and they have just released the ZR16 recording console, and this is it, and it looks rather magnificent. And if I just zoom in on some of this stuff here, they aren't the greatest pictures in the world, but it's proper old school and new school all kind of mixed into one. Lots of lovely needle VDUs, and I don't know what the technical term is for those faders that go on that kind of the arc in the middle there. There must be a technical term for it, but you can order different configurations of this, and the prices start at $89,500 US. But the specification is pretty impressive, and it features their recreations of Jeff's old circuits and channel strips and everything there, and it just looks a lovely, lovely, lovely thing. Have you heard of Sound Techniques at all? Is that a name that's ever occurred to you guys?
No, not for me. I hadn't heard of them previously. I think it looks great. I think it looks like a fantastic piece of kit. But one thing that made me laugh was that it starts at £89,000, and the other includes phantom power.
Other facilities include 48 volt phantom power.
Phase inverse, and I was thinking, yeah, £89,000. It
should be giving you a blowjob too. Yeah.
Leave the van with you when you drop it off. It's very expensive, but I'm sure that the sound quality of it reflects that. I imagine that to have a lovely, warm sound, and it needs very, very little engineering to get something nice out of that desk. It's.
When I first started working for them, they had one of the original desks in the reception area. And when I went in for my interview, I saw this and I thought, whoa, hang on a minute. I thought I was coming to work for a computer software company. And I got to asking what was going on. And then I met Jeff, who is a real character. He's getting on quite a bit now, but he's still doing well. Of course, he made quite a bit of money when he sold this business. But I remember that I'm just going to bring this over. So this is the ZR24, which debuted at NAMM a couple of years ago, and they got in Ken Scott to do a demo of this, and they were running all sorts of multi-tracks through this in NAMM. And this is a really beautiful modern desk, and again this has like everything on it and a whole bunch of recreated hardware from Jeff's original designs. But it was funny because I thought, I'm working for a company that's steeped in history, because Jeff would often tell us about his exploits with the members of the Pink Floyd as they were then, and Nick Drake and various others, especially at that time when everything had a certain aroma to it, if you know what I mean. And it was I just thought he was just a small player in this. And then did a bit of investigating, and it seems like it's a very desirable. If you've got an old Sound Techniques gear, it's certainly a very desirable thing that's known all over the world. So it's just great to see the brand back, and I thought I'd just throw that in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a nice, and that ZR24 looks stunning. But yeah, well out of my price range. That's one of those things where they don't even put the price on the page, because if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
It doesn't even tend to come down in price as well, really, that much. Wait like 20 years and hopefully pick one up for like 600 quid. It's not going to happen, is it?
No.
So here's a question for you guys then, because a lot of the old, great consoles, Neve and whatnot, have been modeled now by a number of different software manufacturers. Have either of you guys or anybody in the chat room been using these vintage modeled console plugins as a part of your recording process, and how has it worked for you? And does it give you the vibe of those? Maybe a lot of us have not worked on really vintage boards like that, but does it for you kind of put you in a good place when you're recording? Do you like the sound of it? What's been your guys' experience?
For me, it just tends to be a bit of EQ that's put on something. It doesn't bring the sound to life as I used to have a Allen and Heath Sabre Plus, and it's a really old, big, clunky desk. It took 3 of us carry it up the stairs, nearly killed us. But proper big studio console, and as soon as we plugged everything into that, you could hear it. It was just analog warmth, like you're getting from a good analog synth, but everything was getting it. Really, really lovely sound, and you don't tend to get that. I know it's little bits of distortion and EQ and stuff, but it's not the same. It's I don't know, not for me anyway, not yet. I've not heard anything. Apparently those Universal Audio ones are pretty good, aren't they? But I haven't heard them. I just, what I've heard, it hasn't really been competing with it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I've ever worked on any, classic vintage desks, let alone any modern classic desks. But I mean, I've got stuff.
Come on, we've all worked on some vintage PV or Yamaha boards, right? From the late 80s.
Very true.
Those classics that color your tone.
I mean, I hear people say, you have one of these desks, whether it's a Neve or an SSL or whatever it might be, and they say, oh yeah, it's got this classic kind of thing. And I think if you listen long enough, you'll hear everyone say it's got this classic sound. Well, what is that? This classic. Yeah, I guess it's just a taste thing, isn't it? It's all very subjective. Some people prefer one to the other. So many people are just now doing everything in digital anyway, and they get these plugins to kind of recapture that, and it's an easier way of capturing that kind of quality, I guess. I mean, I have a bunch of plugins that claim to model this, that, or the other, and I couldn't say whether they sound like it. It's just like synthesizer plugins. Some of these plugins I've never been in the same room as the real deal. So does it sound good to me? Does it improve something? Then there's stuff that does that. And I think that's really all that matters. I don't think anybody sits and listens to music nowadays and says, oh, you could tell that was recorded on an SSL something or other, and it would have gone, sounded better if they recorded it on whatever. Nobody does that. Nobody judges what synths you use. Does the song sound good? Yes. Well, it doesn't really matter what you bloody use. It can be free stuff. I mean, Ben was saying he's not had so much fun with free stuff this afternoon using the OBXD and some free Valhalla stuff. Does it sound good? Yeah, that's it. That's all you need. Doesn't really matter. But I think if you are a professional and you are looking to achieve a certain sound that you have experienced in the past on the hardware, then yes, you go out and buy this, maybe buy the specific plugins, whoever they're made by. But
I've got a number of them that have this kind of purpose, and I've got a lot of the IK multimedia stuff, which will model the EQ curves, but also the preamps. And it's been nice that some of their plugins, and I've used the UAD stuff as well. But it is kind of nice when they model both the EQ spectrum of them, but also the amplification part of it, and then also give you a switch to be able to put that preamp part in or out, because sometimes it is just the natural EQ of a certain piece of gear that you like, but you'd rather not have to deal with the extra bits. And then sometimes it is, and it's been... I haven't spent a ton of time experimenting with the full console stuff, but, maybe on some of the vintage EQ models, like an old Pultec or whatever it is, that it does with the preamp, like when you start getting into saturation with EQ, that can have a really nice effect. Like sometimes... the way it compresses as you're boosting certain frequency, because it's just hitting that clipping point, will sound a lot different than if you're using just a straight clean EQ. And honestly, most of the time I'm just using the Logic EQ because its graphical interface is so easy and nice to use. But there are those times where I'll sit and I'll play around with a few different equalizers or a channel strip. And again, like you said, like, well, for a lot of these, I don't have firsthand experience with some really fancy SSL board or something. But I mean, with any of this, I kind of agree with your point, Robbie. Like, if it gets you the sound that you're looking for and you're having fun, and that whole like skeuomorphic look of like studio gear, because I don't have a rack full of vintage compressors. I have a really nice hardware compressor over here. But I don't have that nice big rack sitting behind me, so I got to go to software to do that. But I'm just fantastically happy that we are able to have some at least models of this stuff for both this classic recording gear and the synthesizers. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we live in an age where we're very fortunate. We can get good models of this stuff. I mean, I actually spoke to Jeff many years ago at some do that we were at after we consumed a little bit of alcohol, and I said, look, mate, are you ever going to do plugins? You would make a fortune if you'd sold Sound Techniques plugins. Oh no, he said, no, it's hardware. I won't entertain that. And he just didn't want to do it. And I think that's a really, really kind of slightly short-sighted view, because the people that want the hardware will go and buy the hardware. It's as simple as that. They're not going to say, oh, well, do you know what? I can recreate an SSL desk in plugins. They're not going to do that. If they want an SSL desk, they'll go and buy an SSL desk. Same with anything else. So I tried to persuade him, but in the end he sold the business and retired a very, very wealthy man. And more power to him.
I would think that probably just as a armchair businessman here, that if you were doing both, that would hit the greatest part of the market, in that the software, as you said, it's not really going to cannibalize your hardware sales because people are pretty split. But if you're making some of this very unique hardware gear to have a contract with UAD or IK Multimedia or any of these other companies and have them model your desk, might create a little more advertise your stuff around, and people might actually go and check out your real board, perhaps. I mean, perhaps not, but at least you'd be making money on the people that will never buy the hardware. I've got a small 16-channel mixer here, but I'm not going to have a real full studio console in the extra bedroom of my house.
No, I agree. And I mean, I've been this week alone, I've been trying to scratch my head and figure out how I'm going to route all of this stuff into something that I can listen to it all back on and also record, as and when is necessary. And I've got no space for anything. I mean, I've got a little, you can see a little mixer down there. I've got a couple of these little desktop things, and that's it. That's about all I can cram in. So I've had to go down the route of line mixers, which will solve my issue, thankfully. But there's no way I'm going to get a big desk in here. A friend of mine on Facebook's just bought a new desk. It's like a 48 channel thing, and it would fill this room completely. And I'd love that, but I just don't have the room or the money to do that. Yeah. But yeah, it's
interesting here. So Native VS says, I can remember the hardware sales of the Vertigo VSC2 went up when the plugin was released. So there's some real world feedback on it. That's interesting.
I thought that as well. It increases brand awareness of.
Yeah.
It might be a company that you've never heard of, but if you really love the plugins, and then the money starts coming in, you might be tempted to go with the hardware. Yeah. It's a win-win situation, really. I don't know why.
I mean, if you're selling hardware synthesizers for £200, just pulling a figure out of the air, and then you go and sell a plugin of that for 50, and it does pretty much the same. Well, many people are going to go for the plugin because it's a considerable saving. However, if you've got an $89,500 mixing desk, those kind of people that buy that will be buying that, and the plugin is not going to affect any hardware sales. It's in fact, as you say, it probably has the opposite effect.
Most people's experience of Neve will be through some sort of software emulation. Not many have actually used the physical consoles, but they will want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, here's a case in point. Here's a case in point. I'm a long-term Propellerhead Reason, I can't call them Propeller. They're Reason Studios, Reason user, and for many years, the mixer that they've used in Reason has been modelled on an SSL, I think 9000. Although they don't actively state that in the blurb, that's what it is. It's an emulation, and many people have said, and some have said otherwise, but many people have said that it's a very good emulation. So if I was going to be in the market for a large, mixing desk, then the first thing that's going to be at the top of my mind is SSL, because I know that if it's going to sound like that, and I've got used to that sound, and I know how to work with that, then the hardware is going to be the first choice. So it clearly is. Yeah. Native VS says in the chat room, I should be getting a vintage Yamaha DMP7, which is their nice little digital mixer that was.
Yeah.
So
that'd be perfect for you.
I've got 3 or 4 of those on my watch list on eBay. And because they've got motorized faders, they're really cool, and they have the RAM 4 cartridge slots, so you can store lots of stuff on. So I have thought about that.
What about an O2R? Would you never go down the O2R? I've had 2 of them. They're amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the Roland VS880EX, which is a nice, digital hardware recorder with the mixer and everything, and it's got all this stuff, all the effects, and it's a lovely thing, but it's just kind of lacking a little bit in terms of inputs. I certainly couldn't use it in this kind of setup, and I'm not really a hardware recorder guy. I'm more of a software thing, but yeah, I mean, if I had the room, then I would be getting something much larger scale, but just don't have the room until I do, which I probably never will. Hey ho, there we go. Well, we spend longer on that than I thought we should. Sorry, Chris, what you were going to say?
Well, I mean, if you cleared out about 6 or 7 of those Fairlights you have scattered around the house, you'd have room for your.
If I sold them, I'd have the money too.
I've got no room and no money.
I'd have the money too. Yeah, sure. This is very true. So there we go.
You could reroute your Arturia, Fairlight through those vintage, your big vintage mixers back into the computer and be good. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, we spent far longer on that one than I thought we would. So let's move on. Let's do this one. So ASM clearly have really done their homework in terms of their debut synth, because the Hydrasynth is everywhere. Everybody's talking about it, everybody's raving about it, and rightly so. And this week they have announced a new version of the operating system, version 1.5, which includes Many new filter types, support for micro tuning, distortion effect, expanded step LFOs, MIDI CC control map, and much more besides. Ben, you've got a Hydrasynth desktop? Yes. Is that correct?
No, I've got the keyboard.
Oh, you got the keyboard. Have you installed this?
Cryss has got the desktop.
I have. So I'm the odd one out here. I'm the only one that doesn't have a Hydrasynth.
so wait. Ben and I both have this digital synth, and Robbie doesn't.
I know. Okay, who wants to go first on? Because I clearly have no skin in this game. Who wants to go first on this one?
Well, I installed it before, and I love the way that the company's dealing with this. For me, it's a benchmark to other companies that this is the level of support, this is the level of updates that should be dished out. It's like they really care about it, and they don't want to just like throw it out there and forget about it. It is constantly being improved, and it's really being improved as well. It's amazing what they can do with firmware. They're like routing things inside the machine with just like software updates. It's brilliant. I installed it today. I think it's really good. You've got the extra filters. You've got the microtonal tuning. You've got the improved randomize feature, which I've spent a bit of time with this afternoon. And I love the Hydrasynth. I think it's great. But this randomize feature, I didn't get anything good out of it. And I thought, if this is the improved version, what was it like before? But then I discovered, now this is really good, you can set the level of randomization. Yeah, so you've got like elements of the sound, like the oscillator or the envelope or whatever, and you can turn that down from like a percentage. So it starts off at 100%, which means it completely randomizes it. You could go down to 1%, but it's only a slight change. And then it really starts. If you find a patch that you like and think, I quite like it, but it's not quite what I'm looking for. A couple of these randomization things on a low setting could bring something out that you wouldn't have necessarily brought out yourself.
Yeah.
You know, a fluke happening that creates a great sound. I did actually get one that was pretty good. After I was telling Vicky that I thought it wasn't that great, and then I clicked on it and said, "Look at this," and it was all right. So it made a complete buyer out of me. But yeah, it's again well done, ASM. It's a brilliant update, and it just makes you feel confident with the brand. Totally.
Yeah, sounds it. Cryss, what do you think?
Oh yeah. So I won't go over the stuff that Ben talked about again, but I completely agree. And, you know, one of the things that it just reminded me, so I haven't used it in quite a while. When I first got it, I played it for a bit and made some patches, and then I was working on other things, so I kind of just set it to the side. But I was impressed with it back then, and then I brought it out again a couple days ago to upload the new firmware, and I just kind of played through the stuff that I had done with it, as well as one of the, I think was it the Inhalt sound set that came out that they offered for free with it, and went through some of those and a few of the factory patches, and just was remembering again, like, man, this is such a great synth, and I think it does something good for the industry, as you know, been said, like their support and what they're continuing to do with it. I really like that. I mean, same thing with the Moog 1. I mean, we're still working on some problems here, but it keeps getting better and better, and they keep adding more features and doing more stuff. The Hydrasynth, same thing. Like they just keep moving forward with it, adding good features, things that I thought were, you know, probably should have been put on, like distortion. I'm not a big distortion on synth fan, but that'd be kind of one of the basic things that for a digital synth to have in its arsenal. They added that, as well as all the, you know, the extra filters. We're always excited about extra filters, but for the industry, it's really a good sign, because a lot of people have been worried about what will be the long-term effect of Behringer on the market, because we love what they're coming out with and what they're doing, but we get a little bit nervous that startups are not going to be able to get started up because they aren't going to compete. And then you have something like, you know, the Hydrasynth come out, and ASM and they're just knocking it out of the park. And it's, when we're looking at synthesizers of a similar caliber, say the Summit, for instance, which is a great synthesizer, but then you consider how much cheaper, the Hydrasynth is. It's really an amazing value. And then I picked up this desktop. It was brand new, sealed in box, sold as used on Reverb, and I got it for a ridiculous price. And so, I probably would have picked up the keyboard version, but it was just, I couldn't pass it up, and I hadn't planned to get it quite yet, but I'm glad I did. The one thing that I wish that the one thing I wish they would do, though, is they would sell, perhaps if ASM would come out with for maybe $100 or something, or just a ribbon controller that plugs into it, because that's the only thing that I'm really missing about it, because I have controllers that do MPE and Poly Aftertouch. And what I would really like to do is have the Behringer DS80 with, 5 octaves, Poly Aftertouch, and then have my Hydrasynth desktop there, and then I'd have ribbon and that. And that's been kind of a long-term plan, but until then, I'm kind of missing the ribbon controller.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So all good from my side of it.
So Ben, first of all, ribbon controller, is that important for you? And second, my other question is, 49 keys. Do you find that restrictive?
Yeah. I wish they'd done it in a 5 octave. It's not too bad, because the Prophet 6 is the same as that. But I think once I get into the bigger studio, I am going to invest in an 88 key controller and just whack everything through that, really, because I don't particularly like 4 octaves. I know it's only 1 octave, but it feels like a lot less.
I know exactly what you mean. I know.
Yeah,
I've got a Akai MPK 49 controller, and I've got this bloody Arturia, which I'll talk about later, Keylab 61. And the Keylab 61 is obviously, it's got an extra 12 keys on there, and the MPK would have fitted nicer on my already full desk, but I'm not a keyboard, I'm not a virtuoso player by any stretch of the imagination, but even I miss the fact that I can just go that little octave lower, when I'm holding kind of root notes down and then playing chords or whatever. So 49 is nice, but 61 is nicer.
You spend a lot of your time transposing, don't you?
Yes, exactly that.
Yes.
Exactly.
See, for 49 keys, the matriarch, that seems where you have, it's either using it as a mono, duo, or paraphonic.
Yeah.
And 49 keys is great for that, because when you're trying to burn it up the fretboard like you're Ben Simpson, then there's like a lot of room to play. Like 4 octaves is more than plenty for that. But yeah, when you start doing chordal stuff with 2 hands, it's just like, it just feels a little compressed to do it with the 49 keys.
I think that you've hit the nail on the head there. Prophecy 37 key, MS 101, SH 101, whatever you want to call it. That's what, 25. Because those are solo synthesizers, they're monophonic synthesizers. When you're playing chords, you want to put a bit of bottom end in there. You don't have that issue. So when you're just noodling leads or doing bass lines, small keyboards absolutely fine. But that's the one thing that I love about the DX5 is that it's a 76 note controller, or 76 note keyboard. And you get, I rarely go down to the bottom end of that thing because it's really low, but you have that option, you have that, that depth, I guess, in stuff. So, and given that the Hydrasynth is a polyphonic keyboard that does, is going to be used for pads and chords, and as well as noodly synths and bass lines, I just thought, You know, because Argon 8, they did, the small one, but then they gave us the option of the 8X, which I still need to speak to John about getting one in here for testing. But
I think, as I recall, what's his name? Glenn Darcy, right?
Yeah.
He was talking about it in some interview, and he said there was some problem where they were having issues with it beyond 49 key in the poly aftertouch.
Okay.
Now I think it probably goes beyond that, and that 49 key synthesizers way outsell 61 key, and then you have whatever issues you have. I think. If I had been part of that team, I would have probably said, yeah, let's release it as a 49 key 8 voice and see how it does, because that'll be the most popular market that we can get into and the price point. And then if things go well in a year or two, maybe put out a 61 key version with more voices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which probably Ken is already playing with at home and hasn't told anybody.
But yeah, I mean, absolutely, and you've got to we really are just picking holes in something that just doesn't need picking holes in. It's a great synth, it's there's really nothing you can say against this thing at all, and we're just finding these little nitpicky things. However, ASM, new kids on the block, delivering something that in terms of specification is way ahead of everybody else, with poly aftertouch, ribbon controller, that great synth engine that it has in there. So yeah, I fully understand that they would want to start at a sensible level, see how things go. If 61 keys is going to be a popular thing, then they can do that, because they've now got the investment, with the return, the sales of this thing, which I'd love to see the sales figures. I think they'd be quite impressive.
And I'll just point out, so I swear I remember hearing Glenn say something to that effect, but Ken, who does a lot of work with the Hydrasynth, says that was not a thing about them going over the 49 key. So I know the market, that was definitely consideration. Okay, yeah, so Ken he's confirmed it, so what I said was not correct.
Okay.
But there was something that Glenn said that may have suggested that in one of the interviews, because I don't remember hearing this as a rumor myself. I remember hearing it in the interview. So, but we'll just let that correction stand, be that that was not the problem. It was a sales thing, that 49s sell so much better. And again, that would be the smart decision to make as your first synthesizer.
I always find it funny that 49s sell better than 61s, because I don't know why in my head 61 key just seems to be the standard, and then you go up or down based on other things, but you always, whether that's just because I'm old and every keyboard that I pretty much they're all 61s, and that's just kind of the thing.
Most of the classics are 61 key, isn't it? So it's just it's like Ferrari making a three-wheeler. You'd be like, is it going to really be that good?
It would. It would. But no, it's like all of my most of my keyboards here are 61. The only exceptions are the DX, the Fairlight, and then the small stuff at the top there. But they have specific markets. But let's not detract from the fact that ASM have come up with probably the best synth of we're only in 2020, but if we say from 2001 to 2020, it's the best synth of the decade. It's the most inspirational, the most exciting, the most talked about, and I think you used the term benchmark, Ben. It really has been. They've come in, this audacious new kid on the block, and they've set a level, and they've set the bar pretty high, and you can only applaud them for doing that, and long may they continue. I'd be interested to see what's it, because I was slightly surprised, when you think how long the Hydrasynth has been out now, that they've not said, oh, we're working on something, they've not teased anything. But I guess maybe that's because we now live in a world where people are teasing things more than they're actually making the bloody stuff. So
I don't think that this is it from them. I think
Oh,
there's
no.
a lot more to come. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I really,
Yeah.
I know Ken's in the room, and he might know, and he won't say, but I'm sure they're working on some cool stuff, and I'm very excited. I have to say, as someone who generally only buys vintage gear, this is the one thing that really is tugging at my short and curlies and saying, "Come on," because.
I think you'd love it.
Oh, I think I would, because I was speaking. I've mentioned I've spoken to Manny Fernandez, who has pretty much designed every preset for every Yamaha synth since the DX7, and he loves FM. I mean, you think I love FM? Manny adores FM, and he saw this and he bought it at as soon as it came out, and he absolutely loves it. And I know that if he loves it, I'll love it. So but it's money.
Yeah,
it's money.
For its price point, I mean, there's been some, like the DeepMind 12 or something. We think about what should I suggest to somebody who really wants a synthesizer that is inexpensive but can do a fair amount, and in some ways the DeepMind's fairly limited. For a little bit more, the Hydrasynth just blows everything out of the water. It's in having so many types of synthesis available to you. You can do the virtual analog or the wave tables, and then having a UI that's so good. I mean, the only UI that I like better than it is the Moog 1, but we're talking about radically different price points there. And also space, because if they had the space for a layout to do something like this, I'm sure they would have done just as well. I know they would have.
Yeah. So
it's just a remarkable synthesizer, and I agree with you, Robbie. I think this is one of the greatest synthesizers of our time.
Yeah.
And it's going to just keep being, more and more.
I think what really impressed me is that when I saw the synth and heard it and saw the specifications, it smacked of a product that had been a group of people that sat down and not thought about how can we beat the competition, is how can we make the best synthesizer with the best features at maybe this kind of price range. How can we do that? What can we throw in there that is really going to make people go, "Ooh, want that?" Poly aftertouch, ribbon controller, all these methods, the synth, that synth engine with all of its variety that's in there, the build quality, they've really thought about it, and it shows, it oozes, that kind of that thought process. So it's
great. Yeah, it's one of those that we're so often, we're just smacking our heads going, why didn't they do this? Or when you're talking about a UI and you've played a synth with a really great UI and you go to another one that doesn't, you're like, this is not thought out. Why did they make me cross my hand over to do this thing over here, and it covers the screen while I'm changing presets, things like that. And with the Hydrasynth, you don't have that. I mean, it's just so well laid out and so well thought out.
Yeah,
that they really did a great job on that.
So
I love the signal flow, on the buttons where you can. That's a great idea, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it does look like it's not just a case of we're going to have all of these features. It's how can we implement them and make them useful and make them, make people actually benefit from this. So so you've got me. I'm now on a retail site, and I'm just going to check the prices of the Hydrasynth. To see if I can possibly afford one. I don't want the desktop, and again we've picked the tiniest of holes. Like we said, we talk about the size of the keyboard. I'm not sold on the desktop, and I know Cryss, you've got one, and I don't know. I just don't. For me, I would rather spend the extra £400 or whatever it is to get the keyboard, but.
Normally I would, but again, I just got such a good deal that I just had to get it. So
no, I get it, and I understand why lots of people have bought the desktop version, space considerations, all this kind of stuff.
It gets crazy when you think about the price point of the Hydrasynth keyboard versus the Roland Jupiter XM. And then you start thinking, and then if it, for a few $100s, couple $100 less, you can actually get the Hydrasynth.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking about the UI and what a mess the XM is. I know some people like them and stuff, but I spent some time on it, and the UI is terrible on it. It is just awful. Whereas the Hydrasynth, like, you don't really need the manual a whole lot. It's so intuitive, you can really figure it out.
I don't think I've ever looked at the manual.
Yeah, see, like the way that it's laid out, using those scribble strips that you just put up select an area of the synth that module you want to work on, and it pulls it up, and at most you're like a page or two or something.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I'm going to buy one. Not right yet, but I'm pretty sure there is one in my future.
You need one.
Pretty sure. The thing is, where do I put it? I've used everything up. Okay, so look.
That white keyboard that you've got at the bottom.
Well, that big white one, yeah.
The one with the calculator on the end.
Yes.
That one. The big VL one.
Do you like what I've done? I've got the Fairlight there, and then on the top of it, I've put my little Yamaha VSS 200. So it really is, both ends of the sampling spectrum. Yes.
I love it.
Anyway. So that's the Hydrasynth 1.5 OS is out. It's free to all users and is highly recommended, as is the hardware itself. And we, towards the end of that little discussion there, we spoke about the Roland stuff. Well, let's go on to Roland, shall we? First of all, it was, of course, 808 day yesterday, so we're slightly a day late, but there's nothing we can really do about that. I guess if you're on social media, it was basically your feed was filled up with companies selling 808 samples. There was Roland themselves advertising this 808 day experience and the stories and all of this stuff. And I actually suggested to the wife last night, we were going to watch a film. I said, what do you want to watch? Oh, I don't know, you pick. So I went onto Amazon Prime, and I've already watched it a couple of times, but there was the 808 documentary. Shall we watch this, considering it's August the 8th? And she goes, well, what do you mean, August? Oh. Okay, you haven't lived with me that long, that you should know these things. But anyway, so 808 day, lots of 808 stuff going on. But I think one of the most interesting things that came out of 808 day was this, which is RC808. Now, when I first saw this, I thought, oh, it's just another company doing another 808 knockoff. And I thought, okay, let's have a look at this. And I downloaded it and opened it up, and I was like, this is pretty good. So I go back to the website and discover who's behind all of this. And it's essentially the same team that was behind all the... And here's another thing I learnt yesterday. I did not know that range of products, 808, 606, 303... was called the Mid-O series. I had no idea that was a term. I feel, I don't know whether I should admit that in public or not, but I had no idea. And these guys, these Japanese guys, which were the team, and here they are in all of their venerable age. I mean, I don't know what the combined age of these guys are, but I'm guessing it's in the few hundreds. So Junichi Kadoya, Hisanori Matsuoka, Kiyokazu Fujiwara, Tadao Kikumoto, and Yoshiro Oi. I don't know how you pronounce that. But also Hiro Nakamura, which I'm rewatching Heroes at the moment, and I just thought, whoa, Hiro Nakamura? Whoa, is this an offshoot? Is this a spin-off? Atsushi Hoshirai, are all part of this Analog Mafia team, as they call themselves. And they were the original R&D staff who developed the Mid-O series for Roland back in the day. And this is all of their work. And it's bloody good. And there's some really, really nice stuff. And it's completely free. And, of course, there is the disclaimer that they are independent from Roland and they cannot answer any kind of inquiries about us and our deliverables, including this website. So it's kind of just like, we were the guys that did it, and here's some stuff. Did you have a go with this? What do you think?
I've got to be honest. I was working my way through the list of topics, having a great time today, and somehow I've just skipped past this one. And so,
what do we pay you for?
His looks.
This was me. This was my best research day as well. and I missed this one out. I apologise.
Oh well. I'll tell you what. In lieu of that, let's play this little demo here, and so that to our listeners and viewers, hopefully they're doing both, because we seem to have got around our stream problems. So I know that you guys probably won't hear this, but I have to say, I mean, they've set out to create what they say is a drum synthesizer, not a drum machine. And this is all synthesis, and it sounds brilliant. And it's, I mean, it's not the most, graphically pleasing thing. It has 808, the front panel looks a bit like an 808. Let me just bring this here. So you've got this little kind of mini front panel that has the 808 colour scheme and stuff. But the editing windows are very basic, very simple and straightforward stuff. But it really is very impressive what they've done. And I get the feeling that this is something that they're going to go on and do more stuff of. I don't think this is it, which is good. And there's, you can do 909 stuff in here as well, which is very cool. So I mean, I just thought that was probably one of the more interesting things to come out of 808 Day yesterday, which, Roland, as someone pointed out, I think it might have been Ken in the chat room, says, all Roland did was, throw up a page of links to stuff we've already seen and give us a free trial of the 808 in Roland Cloud if you don't already have that. And that's about it. And there was a free patches pack, I think, a dark techno patches pack, if you're a Roland Cloud subscriber. Cryss, what are your thoughts on this?
So I haven't downloaded the RC808 yet. I spent the morning clearing out video junk on my laptop, so I'll be able to now. But I think it's cool, in that one screen where it's talking about them and you see them all lined up and it's the analog mafia. It was great to see that, and I'm glad those guys are continuing to work on new synth and drum projects. The Roland 808 Day was pretty disappointing to me. Not really anything of interest. Signed up for their emails, hoping and praying for some more ACB, but I know it wasn't going to come. So, it's in the past it has been something of interest where they've released some cool stuff on 808 or 909 or 303, but it's like, is this what we're going to expect now?
You see, the one thing I was thinking was, here are these 5 guys, and there's a couple more that are not in shot, that were the guys that were behind this stuff originally. Why on earth didn't Roland bring these guys and say, look, do this, but do it under our banner, with our blessing, and we'll put this out there? And why? There's a real missed opportunity there, in my opinion. But hats off to these guys. They've done a really good job of something, and I think there's more to come. As Ben knocks over half his furniture, coming back to the camera. But that was one of my favourite sort of things to come out of that. And then, of course, Roland, a few days before that, announced this, which was wasn't a surprise because we knew it was coming. It's the Juno 106 model expansion for the Zencore or the Zenology plugin. So I'm going to defer to Cryss on this one, because Cryss, I think you have a Juno 106. You also have the ACB version. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Nothing new. I don't hear 106 in it at all. If somebody can get some use out of it, and that's great. Like I said, there's some things about the Zenology stuff that are interesting that I think, as far as the interface looks nice, the way that you can get it on multiple pieces of gear is great, but the sound, even if you're like, well, it doesn't sound so much like a Juno 106, but it's how does it work as a synthesizer? I just kind of find the flat sounding like uninteresting, not moving. Not even a matter of, like some people will say, well, it's, it doesn't have analog warmth. Like, it's not really an EQ thing. It's like kind of a static sound. So, yeah. So that I don't have anything, really much to say about that.
Chris's opinion is meh.
Meh.
Meh. MEH. Ben,
right,
go on.
I'm gonna go back on my earlier verdict of this a little bit, because I put it on and I was listening to it and I thought, this is actually all right. I've been a bit too harsh on this. This is okay. And I was going through it. There's tons and tons of presets in there. And I was going through like some of them and thinking, no, that's not bad. And then I thought I'll do, because I don't have a Juno 106 anymore. I used to. So I loaded the Roland Juno 106 from the Legendary series as a kind of A/B test. Mm-hmm. And all this like bottom end and crunch and everything appeared. And so, yeah, if you haven't got anything else, this is brilliant. And it uses very, very little resources from what I can gather. Yeah. So ideally, it'd be great on like a laptop, like you've got the Zenology on the laptop or whatever. You go out on the, on the road doing your stuff, and you can put ideas together. Maybe replace the sounds later on with the actual hardware, or if you haven't got that, the Legendary stuff. Mm. But it's still, it's good. It's okay. It's okay for getting ideas down and that. And it's not, I don't think, me and Cryss have both been quite critical about this in the past. I don't think it's as bad as what we first said. And I love the interface. I think the interface is great. The 106 interface is particularly good. But when you compare it to the Legendary series, is far superior. But it's also far more demanding on the system, because that's when all the fans kicked in on the Mac and everything. I only had one Juno 6 running. And a Zenology thing. So, yeah, when you've got nothing else, or resources are a bit of a premium, Zenology might get the ideas down and that.
Well, I think we've said
it hasn't got that bottom end.
We've said this before, haven't we? That certainly my opinion. I think you agreed that one of the key drivers behind Zenology was to come up with a platform that not only could live on the hardware and in the software world, but was also less CPU intensive, because the ACB stuff was quite demanding, and this kind of scaled back minimalist flat design to the UI probably contributes to some of that, and certainly it would seem that the ACB stuff gets closer, but the cost is CPU cycles, whereas the Zenology stuff is the other way around. Whether that improves or not, I don't know. To be honest, I'm really not that excited, I guess is the word I'm looking for, by this. And what's the next one? Is it the Jupiter 8 is the next one that they're supposed to have coming? Because we've had the we've had the SH101, the 106, and the JX. Was it 8P they did on? In Zenology.
Yeah, 8P.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think the next one is the Jupiter 8, and then who knows what comes after that, if anything. But like you say, you can use, if this is better for resources, use that, and then when you're in a situation where you can afford to lose a few CPU cycles, then use the other.
Yeah. And one thing that may help the Zenology stuff is that sometime soon they'll be coming out with the full version of it. So, know from experience that, presets are presets. Sometimes you get lucky and there's some good ones. And most of the time, the factory presets are just not that great. So being able to go in there and edit it yourself and work on some sounds and kind of dial it in will probably be a lot more useful. The Zenology will be a lot more useful synthesizer, as the full version than it will be for the light.
Yeah.
But again, I just don't think there's going to be quite the accuracy and of the ACB, but I would expect that the full version is going to make people a lot happier.
Yeah, I said there's a note here in the small print that after August 11th, model expansions will only be available with the Pro or Ultimate membership. So they're kind of ring fencing that in for subscribers in about 2 days' time. So if you want to get a hold of this and try it out, do it now. If you haven't got a subscription, I mean, you know, we've talked about this before on this show. You know, I hummed and hawed over a subscription for about 2 years. I finally went for it, and I don't feel shortchanged in any respect. I mean,
No.
there's a cracking set of tools that you have. I just wish they'd start thinking now beyond these 4 or 5 synths that they keep recreating in using different technologies. You know, either broaden that field, or come up with something new and exciting. Which I think Roland haven't come up with anything really new and exciting for a long while.
Roland Cloud is probably the most promising product that Roland's got at the minute.
Absolutely. I mean, I hear good things about, you know, the Jupiter X and the XM, but the bad things far outweigh the good things. You know, I saw a demo. I think it was done by one of the retail outlets here in the UK, and there was like a 20-minute demo, and it sounds good, you know, but it doesn't sound any better than anything else that's out there, you know, and it's just, you know, it's a shame. But there you go. So, yep, go on. Somebody want to say something?
You know, I agree. I would like to see them. So, I'd like to see them finish putting out some of the classics in both formats, ACB and Zen stuff. Put it out, get out. You know, because there's Jupiter 6 and Jupiter 4, the Alpha Junos, you know, or whatever else there is. Get those out because people want them, and even some of the later digital stuff like the JD800 and whatnot. But there's a lot of people that still want that stuff, and then, you know, start rolling them out. And then at the same time, probably where they've had a problem is direction. You know, what direction are you going? You're doing a little of this, a little of that. I remember was it the JDXA and the other one, JDXI, I think. It's like, well, what is this? It didn't go in either direction really well. You know, when you see something come out like the Sequential Pro 3, which has digital and analog oscillators, that feels more like a unified instrument than, say, something that like the JDXA. I know there's some people that have done some really nice stuff with it, but it just didn't. It seemed like it probably was started on a good idea, but not executed as well as it could have been. You know, again, criticisms about Roland, at least for myself, it's because I fantastically love Roland, you know, the Roland sound. And so it's tough when you're like, come on, you guys, you can do it, but you've got so many resources that these other companies don't have, and you're not bringing it. Yeah.
So it's almost like they're not trying, isn't it? It is. It is. Like, oh, this'll do. This'll do.
Well, we shall see what's coming down the pipeline. But there you go. That's the 106 model expansion now available on Roland Cloud for all subscribers, and I think, you know, for the free subscription you've got a couple more days to check that one out. So finally, in the wild, we have some UDOs, some Super 6s, and I saw this video the other day and I thought some of the sounds on this are just amazing. So finally, we get to see some of these UDOs on under other people's hands, rather than just those that are the makers of it. And finally, it's great to see these out there. And again, here's another company, new fledgling company. They've taken their time. They've done things slightly differently, but they've come up with a synth that is heavily inspired. They make no bones about it. It's heavily inspired by Roland synthesizers, but it's something that's rather unique and, by all accounts, is rather special. Is this on anyone's shopping list?
I would love one.
Oh, Ben.
I think it's quite expensive, but I think it sounds amazing.
What's it selling for?
It's been.
I forget what it was.
I don't know. I just presume it was quite expensive.
All right.
Chat room.
Let me check while you wax lyrical. Go on then. So you say it's quite expensive, but you would like one.
I think it's quite expensive. I'm just basing that on prejudice and ignorance. But yeah, I would like one.
Oh, it's not cheap.
I think I didn't think it was. I thought it was around the £2,000 mark.
It's the thick end of £2,200.
Yeah. But you're getting a lot of synth for that.
Oh,
It's just forking out that money, isn't it? It does sound incredible. It's got a really lovely tone to it and that, but
yeah,
I don't know if it's for me, that one, because it's just a lot of money for another 4 octave.
We're on that one again, are we? Yeah, I mean, I hear you. It's not cheap, but it's very, very good for what it does.
Sounds awesome.
And everybody, people have been really raving about this and chomping at the bit. And I must admit, a few months ago when the whole pandemic thing kicked in and these things still weren't shipping, I thought, are we ever going to see this? Is this going to be one of the most famous vaporware products that we've ever had? But I'm delighted to have been proven wrong, that these are now arriving at customers' doorsteps. Cryss, is this something that you see in your future?
Pretty much the same as Ben. I think it sounds amazing, and especially in the right hands, there are some really gorgeous sounds coming out of it. My current concerns always are no preset naming unless you use an app, and 4 octaves. But aside from that, great sound.
Yeah.
A little out of my price range to spend right now, though. But we'll see. Maybe the used market will bring some around, and I would love to spend some time on one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not grabbing me. I look at it and I think, I do like the look of it. It looks, it's got no screen, and that can be a good thing, and it can also be a bad thing. But I don't know. There's something about me visually that grabs me about it, and the sounds. I do like the sounds. I did wonder about the keyboard. Let me just bring this up on screen. So if you look at the actual keyboard mechanism, it juts out slightly from the main chassis.
Yeah.
And that, it's like the bucktooth ARP.
No, it's got the ARP teeth.
But they have actually put, and let me just zoom in on this. If this one of these funky, it's got this little obi strip. It's almost like a record obi strip at the bottom here. It won't let me zoom in on this one, but they've actually put like a protector. So there's this thin grey strip just at the end there, and there's one on the right hand side as well. So that gives me a little bit more reassurance that I'm not going to knock the keys or the corners of the keys off. Quite why they couldn't just slightly extend the chassis, I don't know. But I think the price might be. I mean, a lot of people seem to be going for it, and I think the price might be the one sticking point for many people. But other than that, I mean, it sounds great, and I'm just delighted that it's actually landed. That because I was just worried that this was something that promised so much and never delivered. But no, good to see it Good to see it out there at last. If you want to see that demo, which I played a little snippet of earlier and is still playing in the background, this is who is this? Funky Junk Limited, and it's a good 11 minutes of ambient pads and presets, and I'm sure there'll probably be more sounds coming out of there. But some really nice sounds.
I think Matt Johnson's done a demo of it as well.
Okay, well then that'll be good. Definitely. It's a really nice thing. Good to see. Finally, it is hitting the streets, so that's good. UDO 6, go and get one. Although I think they're sold out at the moment. Such is the demand. Right, let's do this next one. I think we've spoken about these for at least a week. Our friends at Spitfire Audio have launched another freebie for you all as part of their Labs product range. This is piano pads, and skip there. Here we go. So it's a very nice use of a piano that's then. Crossfading and reversing and time stretching, and delivers this very nice paddy piano-y type sound. It's quite unique, and as we said earlier in the discussion pre-show that we think that they released these clearly to coincide with some of their paid products, and they've just released this piano type pad type product. It's only about $29, but I'm slightly reluctant to ask the guys what they think of this, because during the week. So what happens during the week? Literally, as soon as we come off air, up until about Saturday afternoon, or even Sunday afternoon, we'll be pinging ideas about topics for next week's show. And as soon as this dropped, I said, "Here's one for next week's show: piano pads, Spitfire Audio Labs." Guys were like, "Yeah, we'll go and get it." And then both Cryss and Ben, you've had real issues with the whole Labs experience.
I think I'll let Cryss go first, if he's all right.
So I really liked Labs. This piano pads one is a little tame compared to some of the other ones, but I think they're fantastic. The only thing that I would change about the design of them is there's a lot of dang clicking for such a simple interface. They could have put everything on one page, presets and the controls, or even just the controls that they give you in that wheel. But you have to go and click it, and then click another thing, and then move this scroll the wheel around. I wish they made it a little bit more accessible all up front. And I get their design philosophy, but the workflow of it is a little bit harder. That aside, the sounds that they have been coming out with, I mean, that's the reason that I bought BBC. What's the middle version? Core?
Core, yeah.
Yeah, so I bought Core while it was on sale, and a lot of it was, I was so impressed with the free BBC stuff, and then also the Labs. They're like, here's a company that I want to support, and that I like what they're doing, and I've been using the Labs. I actually using Labs more than BBC in my recording, and so the only issue that I've had with it, it's not a big issue, was just that in the Labs app where you go to download these different or the Spitfire Audio app, and part of that is Labs. So in the Labs section, it wasn't showing that I had downloaded. I have, I don't know how many of them now. Almost all of them. I think I'm missing maybe 3 or 4 of them. But I've downloaded whatever, 20 or something, or 15, I don't remember, of their free Labs. But it only shows that I have 4 of them. So I can still use all the plugins and stuff, but when you go to remember what you have already downloaded, so like I had to make a list and then check it, and again, it wasn't such a big deal. But I really like it. Yeah,
no, I think you said there that it's kind of it's not that impressive, and I was going through the patches in there, and the first half a dozen I was like, oh, have I actually changed patch? I wasn't quite sure that kind of sounds a bit like the last one. But because they're kind of very slow and evolving, I was doing my thing of just flicking, playing, and so I wasn't giving it a chance. So I went back to the beginning and started going through, and oh yeah, I can see why this one's different. And I got this little chord progression going where I was just changing the top note in the inversion, and it was really working, really nicely as a nice kind of, almost like an underlying melody in that kind of pad thing, and it was just really nice. Just it was nice. So yeah, I mean, it's again, you can't fault these people are giving this stuff away for free. And yes, I know that whenever a company gives stuff away for free, there's a reason for that. It is not 100% altruism. There is something behind it, and this is clearly, because you look at the website, and let me just bring this up for you. So you scroll down to the bottom of the Labs page, and it says the next steps from Labs piano pads are, and then you've got Albion Neo Cinematic Soft Piano, which is the one they've just released, and the Oliver Arnold's stuff as well. So it clearly is an enticement to draw you into the wider world that is Spitfire. But it's a world that you're not going to be disappointed in, because their stuff is so good. Their support, and not just, when I say support, I'm not talking about technical support when you have an issue, or customer support. I'm talking about the whole kind of ecosystem that they build around this, and we've spoken about this before. The videos, the tutorials, the demonstrations, they all just seem to be. I know that there's a plan behind a lot of this stuff. It's not just Christian or Paul sitting there going, "Hey, let's just do this." There's a plan behind it, but it's the plan doesn't get in the way, and it just makes you feel like you're part of a community of sample enthusiasts and musicians, both professional, amateur, and all those that sit in between. They seem to get it. And somebody said to me the other day that they had just, or that recently, and when I say recently, in the last year or two, had had some investment, some like venture capitalist investment, and this is why they're now really kind of in our faces all the time. And they said that as if to say that was a bad thing, and I'm like, well, I still can't see the bad thing. That they're giving away part of BBSO for free.
Yeah.
They're giving all this stuff away for free, and their products are not. I mean, certainly the pro level products are quite expensive if you want to get into the whole, the big libraries, the orchestral libraries. But there's so much stuff that they've got there that is $29. It's just nice and affordable, and big fan.
It's like we were saying before about Neve and SSL. Yeah. It's like, give them the taster of this, and let them wonder how great something that costs much more than the BSO, for instance, is going to sound. I've been nothing but impressed with Spitfire in the short time I've known them, but today was a bit frustrating with the software. Yeah. It just all went bananas, and last time I used it, it worked. I went on it this time, and an error has occurred. And I know you said, Robbie, that it could be the file path, but I went into that, checked all of that. The official line from Spitfire was to re-download the labs.
Yeah.
And that made no difference whatsoever. It's just a mess.
Strange.
It still works. I get this error screen, and then I've got there's like an alert symbol in the top left-hand corner.
Yeah.
I've got to click on that, and then it takes me to the normal screen. But I've got to do that every time. There's no problem with it working. So why I'm getting this error is a bit strange.
Yeah. Ken's made a good point in the chat that I want to bring up, because it is a thorn in my side and something I really, really hate. And he says the real rant needs to be about how much Native Instruments charges so much for people to make contact player instruments, and this is something I know and have experienced, and it's been this way for such a long time. And
it's an awful thing.
And the fact that Spitfire have come up with this beautiful interface, and I know, Cryss, you said there is some clicking involved, but I think it's kind of designed to maybe be used with maybe not dedicated controllers, but using MIDI learn, you can just assign stuff and just make it a little bit, because that's what I do. I kind of MIDI learn stuff to my Keylab and use it that way. But who is it? Just reading here. Yeah. So Native ES says, weirdly, Spitfire have just upgraded some older products to be contact player libraries. It seems that, I don't know whether there's a licensing agreement that they're just waiting to run out on, but Spitfire seem to be caught between these two worlds of using our own interface, which is bloody brilliant, and using the contact interface. And I don't have contact, so there's a whole bunch of libraries that Spitfire sell that I can't use because I don't have contact, and I don't really want to buy it for a number of reasons. And the fact that they do charge developers a stupid amount of money to have the license to use the contact player, which is the free version. It's just ridiculous. I know that it's a lot of developers have just grudgingly worked with NI on this because they know it's kind of the platform of choice for libraries, but it's what I like about Spitfire bringing out their own front end that makes me think hopefully the grass will be slightly greener on that side.
I think that Native Instruments need to be a bit more accommodating with these developers. I know it's not connected, but that Unreal Engine 5 or whatever it is that everybody uses to make games, that's free to download, and you only have to start paying royalties after you earn a million in revenue from whatever it is you did. Yeah. Now, it doesn't have to. There's not the same kind of money involved in software and sample libraries, but there could be a threshold attached to it. Let them build it, get it out there, and then if it is successful, then they'll start paying. It's just they're crippling their own ecosystem. Really,
I don't know why they stick to doing it, because they've been doing it for years, and more than a decade that they've been doing this licensing thing that has priced a lot of small developers out of the market, and in the end they'll just produce a library that is either just works with the regular contact player, the contact full thing, or they just maybe just produce a library of WAV samples so that you can then map them yourself. Because if you look at UVI, and Ken beat me to this in the chat room, UVI have done it well, but they don't ever seem to get as popular or as much credit, because you do have to pay a license fee to put something into UVI format, but once you pay that one license fee, you can use it on Falcon, which is the big paid for all singing all dancing plugin, which I've said many a time, it's probably the best plugin that I've owned ever. But you also get to use UVI Workstation, which is completely free of charge. So everything that you build in UVI format can be used by somebody who has just UVI Workstation, or the hardcore people that have a Falcon, and that's just a much better way of doing it. And yet Contact still seems to be the, I hate to use the term, industry standard. And I've often wondered, because I remember back in the early 2000s, you could, if you wanted Contact, you didn't buy Contact, you just went onto LimeWire or whatever torrent sharing service there was, and you just downloaded a copy and a crack. And I've always wondered how much Native Instruments allowed that to happen so that they could create this base of
interesting.
I've seen it happen in other industries and in other things, and they allow it to happen for a while to literally sow this. To sow the seed. Knocked my glass over there. And then they've kind of got everyone, and now we can start making money off of the libraries and the licensing. And it just seems that I don't know. I don't want to. And I'm saying allegedly, so I don't get caught by the legal people. Allegedly, that's kind of my thought on the thing. I don't know.
Well, and it stands in contrast to the way that Spitfire is doing things. So of course they're using labs as a means to draw people into their products. But one of the wonderful side effects of this is that there are a great amount of musicians who do not have much budget.
Yeah.
We live in countries that people tend to do all right. We can get a few things, but there are many places around the world that the resources are limited. Even in our own countries, some people have limited resources, and you release something, and even if they never buy your product, I mean, there's plenty of other people. I bought BSO, and but there's so many people who cannot afford it that I look at it as a really charitable thing for them to do. Of course, they'll great if they can get some sales from it, but just to stop for a moment and think, it's really cool for a software company to do this. And I know we promote a lot of free software as well on ProSynth Network, because for the first time, I mean, when we all started playing music, I had a hand-me-down guitar that played terribly. I couldn't afford an amplifier. If somebody hadn't lit me an amplifier, I could have got, I would have just been playing electric guitar without an amp.
Yeah.
These days, there's of course, there's always a little bit of buy-on on everything, so you got to have a computer. But how many people have phones? Almost everybody. So you get yourself a $50 controller, and then now you can start making music. You're not making instruments out of buckets, bucket drums or anything. You're actually using some software. And so in this day and age, I like a company that has that kind of mindset that everybody is benefited by it.
Yeah.
The people that want their libraries, remember Bob Familiar has used a lot of their stuff on his albums. And so you're hitting a lot of different musicians, and it benefits them even if they don't make money on the people that are grabbing the free stuff, and that's it, because their name is getting out of there. And so all around the circle, it's benefiting everybody. It's benefiting Spitfire. It's benefiting, whatever, the pro users. It's benefiting the musicians without a budget, and that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting back to the actual sound quality of the thing, I thought it was great. I thought it is a bit samey. Well, there's like half a dozen presets in it or something, and
just for the piano pads. One.
Yeah. And they are quite samey, but they're very, very atmospheric, and they're very scene setting. I think they'd be great for soundtrack work.
Yeah.
Like really, really good.
What I really like about labs is it's something you can just dip into and just experiment with and come up with some, that's nice, and then it kind of leads you down a path. I kind of like that, and it is because it is so different. It's so different from the norm. I mean, yes, this one's piano pads, but you've got all the the weird sounds and the weird instruments and the atmospheric stuff, and it's just so much better. But if just coming back to this kind of whole world of sample library formats, we're in danger now of having so many different. I mean, it's always been the way, but I mean, certainly in my day, it was just Akai and Emu really. And then we started getting all these different things, and I remember sample CDs in the 90s were struggling to get all these different formats on there, and it would be nice to have a standard. I just hate it that Contact is the standard that seems to be accepted. I get sent products to review and to give opinions on or whatever. And one company, I think we've spoken about them, but I won't name them. They've sent me stuff over the last few years, and it's all in Contact Player. So you download the thing, and it's in its own Contact Player, and it works great. It's really nice. But their latest library, they've now moved into just full-on Contact, so you can't use it in the player. And so they sent me this. Hey Rob, check this out. Tell us what you think. And they sent it, and I downloaded the thing. It was however many gigabytes of stuff, and I got it down, and then it's just a regular Contact library, and I can't use it because I don't own Contact. So I go onto the Native Instruments website, and I do own a few Native Instruments things, but the prices were just, I'm not paying that just so I can do this, and so
it is very expensive for what it is.
Yeah.
I know it's a standard, but was it like £600 or something stupid?
Bottom line is, Contact is a sample player.
Yeah,
it's not a sampler. Because to be a sampler, you should be able to feed sound into it and capture that and then work with it. Contact is not that. UVI Falcon is a sampler. Emulator X, when it was a thing back in the day, and that was something that was, again, I kind of rebelled against Contact. So I'm not going to buy you. We're going to go for it. Emulator X, because that's a brand I trust. And then, the rest of it is we shan't go there. But it's not even a bloody sampler, and they want how much for it, and then there's the licensing, and I've said this before. When I used to do stuff with Steve Howell at Hollow Sun, and he said, I really need to go to Contact because that's where the money is, that's where the market is. That's nobody's buying hardware samplers anymore. That number's dwindling. I need to keep up with the times. And he resisted, and he resisted, and he resisted. And then he said, okay, right, I'll do it, but we'll do it with the free player. And he got in touch with NI, and they said, it will cost you this much. And he was just like, fuck off. No, not going to happen. That's just ridiculous. And he told me the amounts of money, and it's going to be different from what it is now, but it was stupidly expensive. And he said, I'm a one-man band. I can't do this. So he said, it's cheaper for me to just buy regular Contact and just develop the libraries that way. And never mind.
Ken's saying in the chat that the only way to have it be worth it is to buy complete.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem
and that smacks of marketing
cynicism. Part of that, but
yeah. I mean, it does. That is the thing. They want you to buy complete. They want you to buy into the whole ecosystem, and they don't want you to do anything else. They want you that, and I just don't like that. I like choice, and it's Oh well, I've screwed my chances of getting an NFR of Contact for many years to come.
And it may be something like, when you're looking at iTunes and to put your music up on there and what it costs, or apps and what they take out as a cut, which, of course, you expect to pay something because there is a service provided. But, then comes along something like Bandcamp, which does it for a lot less. Maybe there'll be somebody that will be able to bring a lot of these sound set and sample pack makers together, into a better free, player ecosystem.
But I mean, again, old man rant here. Back in the day when we had, rack mount samplers or emulators or whatever, if I wanted to develop a library for the Akai or for the EMU or whatever, I'd develop that library and I could sell it. I didn't have to license shit. I just made it, put it out there, and sell it. Simple as that. And I know that this is the way the world is, that it's all about subscriptions, it's all about, repeat purchases, all about upselling and all this kind of stuff, and I understand that, and it sucks, but come on, it just,
there's been some instruments out there that I've taken a look at and like, oh, that sounds really nice, that would be something interesting that I would use in composition. And then, you get to the bottom of it, it requires the full player. I'm like, no thanks.
So always,
don't need it that bad.
It's like, Jamie does his presets for Moog. You do your presets for Arturia and the OB6 and all that. You don't have to pay a license fee to sell those to users of their equipment. So why, it sucks that they base their whole income model on that kind of on licensing. It's just nobody wins apart from them, I think, and that's the bottom line. So I'm just trying to keep up with the chat while I do. I think Inky's on our side when it comes to slating Native Instruments and Contact. But it is what it is. And bottom line is you vote with your wallet, and I voted with mine. So we've got one thing left to do before we shut down. It's just a little one. You brought this up, Chris, I think. It's that Ben is lurching into the room again. I wish he'd turned his microphone off when he went for a whiz. He hasn't got his headphones on, so he can't hear me.
What?
We were saying, we wish you'd turn your microphone off when you go to the toilet.
Oh, I don't know. I'm getting too old. I can only have 2 cans and I go for 15p's.
Oh, dear. So anyway, we're saying we just slated Native Instruments to hell and back, so we're going to go and do the last thing, which is Eventide have just released their Shimmerverb as a plugin, and it sounds very, very nice, but it does seem, again, to be the effect du jour. This, Shimmerverb, whether it's a Valhalla or what was the other one we were looking at the other day?
Tritic Irid.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's stuff on the NTS one that's all very shimmery, and it does seem to be the plugin of choice these days, and we're going to have a glut of music with using this, but it's very nice, and it's a nice simple interface, and it sounds pretty cool. Let me see if I can bring this back. So here we go, let's have a listen to this. They do a nice A-B thing here as well. So they play you the original sound dry, and then they let you hear it wet. So let's just zip up through here. Here we go. So that's the bypass synth. And now with the active. But there's this nice kind of ribbon controller, faux ribbon controller in the software, which is very nice. Here's a guitar. And of course it has all that, that kind of feedback stuff where it feeds back the, the reverb effect back into the signal path and kind of goes round and round. And there's freeze and everything on here as well. So, Chris, seeing as you were the one that highlighted this, so I'm going to go to you first. What makes this a better choice or a different choice to what's already out there?
Well, they've been. It seems like they have been just releasing the H9 algorithms for as a plugin, which was a smart thing to do. I have the H9 hardware unit, and you can see the app on there. But just something else. I think Eventide probably has one of the more popular shimmer reverbs, which is just a reverb with a pitch shifter in the feedback network. I have the H9 hardware. I've had other things, and then the Moog one has Eventide stuff on there. And probably not as musical. I would rate the Irid and Strymon, and then probably the Valhalla, which surprisingly, because usually they're my favorite, as all 3 of those as being a little more my particular taste for it. But you can't argue with the Eventide stuff being very popular. Yeah. So. And it seems like they've done something interesting. Now, I did get, I think earlier this year, the H3000 software, but I to be honest, I'm not that impressed with it. There's been a few things that I've picked out and used from it, but Eventide's not my taste so much. Yeah.
Ben, what do you think? Did you get a chance to listen to this? And
I did, yeah. I remember back in the days of the quadriverb, right?
Yeah.
The quadriverb it was almost like you sent a signal through it. I know a lot of people like quadriverbs, but I never did. You sent a signal through it, and then you got the same sample at the end of it every time. So it'd be like a vocal. You go, hey, and it go at the end of it, and that was the sound of the reverb. And you'd put the snare through it, and it would be exactly the same post sound effect that you got, whatever you seem to put through it, and that's what I didn't like about it. I was having a listen to this today, and I love shimmer reverbs. I think they're really good. I've only really got like what you get in the DeepMind 12 and the Valhalla thing, to compare it on.
Yeah.
But it suffered a little bit of that for me. It was like the shimmer effect was always the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It never really changed. It was like you could put a soft sound through it and you get a bright shimmer. You put a harsh sound through it and you get a bright shimmer. It was all... I don't know. But Eventide is such a great brand. I've just presumed, like, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, no, I mean, it's personal taste, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked what I heard here, but there was nothing here that that made me think, oh, what I've currently got doesn't give me something close to that. I mean, my head, my heart are currently won over by that little NTS1 that I got a few weeks ago, and the various plug-in reverbs that I've been downloading for that, which is just great. Just this tiny little box is doing some incredible things, and it's that real-time control as well, which I really like. It's something that with a plug-in is not always an immediate thing. With this, it's just like you're diving straight in. But no, this is nice, and for I think it's on sale at the moment for $39. I don't know what the full price is, and of course you can get it on iOS as well. And
one of the things I think Adamski makes some good points about it. It's like it's a great effect. I'm probably putting too much into his words there, but we all agree like shimmer reverb is a nice effect, and when it's used. When it's used correctly or tastefully, it can just be really gorgeous and brilliant. And if you got a plugin that does it musically or hardware, I think the Big Sky does it very musically. Like it's not just the effect; it's something that creates soundscapes. But it has become a little overplayed in recent years as it's become more of a fashionable thing again. Much like, do you remember like in the early 90s, Chorus, for some reason, there was like some sort of resurgence of it. Yeah. And especially like the digital chorus. And then when I'd meet some guitar players or other musicians, and they would literally never turn it off, ever. Like it was on everything. Yeah. And so I was like, we'd be playing a song and we'd come to a heavy part of it or something, and, you hit the channel change on your amp, and then there'd be like this like chorusy mess of things like like that would sound good on your clean tone when you switch and you have a little section of that, and then you go back to your regular tone. But perhaps that's what's happened, and also too a lot in maybe the modular world where reverb definitely tends to be the thing. I love reverb. Don't get me wrong. Reverb, I love it. A good reverb there's nothing like it. But we can sometimes have the be overusing it a little bit. And shimmer, it's all the more obvious.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lovely effect though.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm wondering if Ken can have a word with ASM and get it included as a Hydrasynth update.
Yeah. There you go. Your mission, Ken, should you choose to accept it, is... I watched that the other day, actually, the last Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Sorry, just...
How many are they up to now?
God knows. It's the one where he actually broke his leg when he jumped across the building. It was quite good.
Did you see the video that was Tom Cruise for president?
Yes!
That was hilarious.
That was really... For about 5 seconds, I thought...
The guy did so good.
It was great. It was very. If you haven't seen that, go and search Tom Cruise for President 2020, and it's very, very well done, very well done. So back to Shimmerverb. The thing that I like, it mentions in here about Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno on Unforgettable Fire, and I love that album, and I love what they did on that album, and so. Anything that kind of gets me in that ballpark is all right with me, but again, we've said that it's kind of like everyone's doing Shimmerverb, everyone's got a Shimmerverb plugin, everyone's using a Shimmerverb plugin, and I know I'm going to enrage the modular people that are in the audience here, but it does seem to it seems to me it was driven by the use in like the Eurorack world to just make things slightly interesting. So I know that I'm probably going to get a whole load of hate on there, but it does. But it works really nicely, and it does make things sound very nice. But too much is too much. So there you go. Anyway, that's Eventide and their Shimmerverb, available now from eventideaudio.com at $39 on sale at the moment. I don't know what the full price is, but I can't imagine it's huge. But yeah, there you go. If you want another shimmer.
Kim says, "You think I hadn't requested a shimmer, LOL?" Good job.
Keep doing it, Ken. Keep chipping away. So yeah, that pretty much brings us to the end of our topics. Have you guys got anything else you want to add in? Anything you wanted to sort of briefly discuss, or are you happy?
Yeah.
No. What have you got, guys? What have you got lined up for this coming week, Mr. Simpson?
I'm gonna push you two for an early roster of what's going on in the show, because I've really enjoyed today. I'm going to start researching things a bit more.
Well, that's on you. We're always chipping in, throwing in suggestions. So, yeah.
So I think that I just like looking into things, and there's some great stuff out there. There's some great free software out there, and that's all been brought to me attention really today, and enjoyed it.
I've annoyed Ben Divkid in the chat room, who says, "Robbie, come on! I hear way more shimmer on non-modular work than modular." Well, yeah. So
I like what Aaron says. Imperfect. I stopped using shimmer before it was cool to stop using shimmer.
Very good.
And by the way, Mr. Aaron Russell, Imperfect, and also does Point Surrender, will be on the show next Sunday. Yep. So. You guys be sure to tune in for that.
Yeah, and then the week after that, do we have Marshall?
Yes, Marshall Arnold would be on.
The week after that. So, yeah, we've had we had Mick McNeil, didn't we? And that was kind of like, whoa! And so we've had a bit of a lull since then. So it's good to get some more guests on. So yeah, we'll be looking to get more and more people on as we go on, as we get more popular, hopefully. Talking about that, please do like and share us and subscribe to us, and I do want to say a big thank you to everyone that's stuck with us, because we have had looking through the stream health log here, it's been pretty awful. Error, stream is healthy, error, stream is healthy, error, all the way through. So thanks ever so much for those that stuck with us. It's really touching that you did. Cryss, anything lined up for the next 7 days of interest?
Nah, same old. But just having fun and working. So
yeah, cool, good stuff. What am I doing? I'm back to work tomorrow. I've had 2 weeks off work. I should have been in Italy. I would have come back today, but of course that all got knocked on the head. So I've been rebuilding bits of the studio, and I'm hopefully going to. I'll get my line mixers on Tuesday or Wednesday, so I'll be able to plumb the audio all the way through to here. Going to try and get the 2X functioning properly, because it's a little bit erratic at the moment, and get that sorted. But I've made the cardinal mistake of wiring all this stuff in, and then that 2X sits on these little feet, and they're on boards, and to lift it out is just a pain, and then all these cables just kind of fall into the space as I've pulled it out, and then I have to kind of like push them all back to get the Fairlight back in, and it's just fuck's sake. So I think I bought a whole bunch of these from Thomann, which they're dirt cheap. They're like these Velcro cable ties, and so I'm on a mission. I've brought like 4 packs of these in different sizes. I'm going to be on a mission to strap everything up, and I'll probably end up strapping myself up. But there you go. So yeah, that's me, and back to the day job. Never mind. Anyway, so
announcement. Ken is doing a special Hydrasynth show on his channel tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Time.
oh right, well I'll catch up with that tomorrow.
That'll be nice.
10 p.m. Eastern, so that's 3 a.m. if you want to stay up in the UK. If not, I guess you can watch the rerun. But yeah, I will be looking at that one because I am sorely tempted. I'm trying to talk myself out of it because I've got other things on my mind that I want to buy that are much older. But anyway, so thanks guys, thanks ever so much again. We'll show 20 next week. It's getting good now. Thanks to everyone in the chat room. I would go through and name you all, but you are many and numerous, and I'm delighted that you join us. Delighted that you stick with us through the issues that we've been having this week and last week. I'm going to look into that, and we need to talk about, and I want to engage the audience in this at some point, but we need to talk about funding and seeing if our audience might want to fund us. I don't know if there's any traction in that, but we need to maybe look at funding to improve the service that we can provide. So pay for the technologies that we have or don't currently have that we do need to provide a more professional show. So if you have any ideas, answers on a postcard to ProSynth Network at Facebook, and just let us know if there's any kind of preferred method or funding that you all would like to take part in. Even if it's just a small contribution, that would help us deliver something a little bit more professional, because at the moment we're just doing this on a shoestring, quite literally. Thanks again to everyone for joining us. We will see you all same time, same place next week. Thanks for watching. Take care.